Hi everyone, how's it going? I've been really exhausted lately because my sleeping patterns are out of whack. Honestly, I'm not gonna blame the gang stalking for this one. That's entirely on me. I'm the reason why my sleeping patterns have been out of whack. But I wanted to come online and talk today about Project 2025. Okay, now Project 2025 is supposed to be this manifesto that is revolved around maintaining the nuclear family home, which is really just code for building more white people or more white citizens in the US. Now, it's not just the US that are doing this, it's all countries that are doing this. That's why there's always a conservative lean. When there's an end of an empire coming about, there's always a lean towards conservatism and fascism. Um, in a weaker superpower's bid to hang on to power, they will always have more right-leaning conservative views and try to enforce those right-leaning conservative views. Well, in the US's case, I haven't tried, they've actually done it. They will use right-leaning conservative views to enforce oppressive rules that keep everybody in their place. It's basically dictatorship 101. If you want to maintain the pretense that you're fighting the foreign enemy, you basically oppress the domestic one. And that's essentially what Project 2025 is. It's trying to force younger women to have children, and especially younger white women to have more children. And it's trying to change laws around rape, around divorce, around women's rights specifically. Now, this will definitely have a negative impact on people of color. I'm not saying that it won't. But this is what gets me about Project 2025. Do you guys remember Agenda 2021? Do you remember how we talked about how the left and progressives are basically trying to depopulate the planet and leaning towards Agenda 21, which is why everybody thought that it was the left-leaning people that were the Nazis and the terrorists? What's actually happened is that those who are progressive and those who are left-leaning, because the foundation of left-wing thinking is scientific, that has been weaponized against the left to go against their own interests. When it comes to medicine, when it comes to looking more deeply into state corruption, all this, the same scientific evidence, the same reason and logic and illumination of the mind that the left has built its foundation on is the same thing that's actually being weaponized against the left. That's why so many left-leaning people have been very sarcastically and very arrogantly touting medical procedures that are against their own interest, philosophical leanings that are against their own interest. Like, a lot of them have been like, I'm not gonna say too much, go into too much detail here, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. It's this whole throwing the baby out with the bathwater with regards to conspiracy theories and things like that, and thinking that they're not real, and thinking that it's just some dumb white hick in the middle of a rural background somewhere talking conspiracy theories. So that's what I'm talking about when I say philosophically and medically and in every other way the left have been brainwashed. Progressives who believe in racial utopia and in gendered utopia and in equity, those who believe in those things have been actively told to work against their own interests, and they have had their own logic and reason weaponized against them because they've been leaning on that in order to identify who they are as people. Intuition basically just goes out the window beyond the mundanities of life. They don't use their intuition when it comes to the bigger picture. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the left, via science, have been philosophically brainwashed into acting against their own interests. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of you are going to know exactly what I'm talking about there. So, yeah. The same science that has been encouraging and fostering diversity and equity and all these wonderful things are the same things that are being weaponized against progressives in order to ultimately kill them off and depopulate them. Agenda 21 is not about killing off most of the population. It's about killing off the chunk of the population that threatens white supremacy, and in particular, white patriarchal supremacy. Because remember, patriarchal supremacy is at the root of all this, not racism. So anything that threatens the most toxic patriarchal supremacy are the ones that are being depopulated. And it's a carefully constructed demolition that's been going on over centuries now. They've deliberately let people die without medical assistance to the point where people are crying out for it. When you put back people into a corner like that, of course they're going to, from there, they're going to say all medicine is good. Of course they're going to do that. Of course they're going to do that. That's what I mean. It's carefully controlled and it's carefully organized. That's, and again, I'm speaking vaguely because I'm not trying to be specific right now, but if you know, you know. The left have been, they've been brainwashed. The progressives have been brainwashed. But walked right into that shit. Walked right into it. The irony is that the same conspiracy theorists that they've been laughing at have been trying to tell them that this was going to happen. And as for the right, as for right-leaning people, they're also working against their own interests, especially if you are a person of color and a person, or anyone who's queer or who's of an alternate religion other than Christianity. If you are a conservative person, best believe you are working against your own interests as well. Because the most dominant conservative culture is not those of brown people and it's not those of black people. The conservative culture of brown people and black people, forgive me if I'm wrong for saying this, but it's tribal. It's according to ethnicity at most. It's according to ethnicity at most. It's not according to race usually. If there have been any talks among black people about black love and keeping it within the black family, it's only as a response to racism. That was never on the agenda for black and brown people. So on the conservative side, the most dominant conservative ideal comes from white people. Why? Because of military dominance. The most dominant conservative culture is white people. Therefore, if you live in a Western country and you are conservative, you are basically co-signing an effort not only to keep white people at the top, but to ensure that the population is solely white. That's what white supremacy is about. It's not about just white people being at the top. It's about the whole world being white, even down to their slaves. That was always the plan. When they, initially, right, before the enslavement of black people, right, did you know that the same people who bought and sold us, tortured us, unalived us for 400 years, did you know that they tried to enslave white people first? Did you guys know that? White people enslaved their own before they came after us. The only reason they used us is because we were more useful at the time. But this has been in the works for centuries. White people or white supremacists, not all white people, but white supremacists have wanted a white world all the way down to their fucking slaves. That is why rural white supremacists work for them. That's why white supremacists of poorer backgrounds work for them. If we can get these motherfuckers to act out of their interests and have a whole white world in which nothing changes apart from the fucking melanin quotient, nothing changes apart from the melanin. All it is that people of melanin are out of the equation and the whole world becomes even more of a cesspit than it originally was. It's already happening. Look how many extinction level events there are because of white supremacy. All this technology, the technology being weaponized, they've been weaponized by the Five Eyes. The Five Eyes are mostly white. They are white institutions. The extinction level event caused by non-ionized radiation. They are white institutions. So white supremacy is what's bringing this about. Only white people are getting killed alongside it too, because of course they are. That's how it works. In order for them to have a race entirely of white people, some white people have got to get killed. That is the manifesto of the people who have power over us. That was always the manifesto. They don't care about white people. They don't care about white people being happy, white people feeling good about themselves. In fact, they've been weaponizing white people's comfort against white people. They don't give a shit. So when you're a conservative in a Western country, best believe you are operating against your own interests with this family first bullshit, with this book burning bullshit. All they want is white slaves. All they want is white slaves. That's all they want. Do you understand what I mean? That's the, because the thing about white people, especially in America and especially in the West, there's a crystallization of the culture already. So, there's a crystallization of the culture and there's a crystallization of a white supremacist mindset. That's a perfect slave mentality. It's perfect. It's a perfect slave mentality. It's just that they're lacking the numbers and, according to them, lacking the physical attributes, according to them, not me. Because, I don't hold the opinion that one race is better than another. But it's the perfect slave mindset if you're already wired towards competing with others, towards segregation, and towards some kind of lack of empathy already. If you're already predispositioned towards that, because you've been culturally taught to be predisposed towards that, guess what happens? It's a perfect slave mindset, because in order to get to the top, you will trample over your fellow man in order to do it, which means that ironically, you will be a perfect slave, a perfect employee. That's what Agenda 2020, that's what Project 2025 is about. It's about getting as many white people repopulated as possible and possibly to take over the planet. Again, it's not just about them being in power like a few little white people at the top. They want the whole world to be white. Because why the fuck is there an Agenda 21 happening, the depopulation of the earth happening, and you're already replacing it with Project 2025? What is going on? This just goes to show that the left and the right are basically two spheres of the same brain. Because what the fuck is going on? So you've got the left, once again, and you've got progressives, whose backbone and whose foundation is reason, logic, science, philosophy. Having all these things used against progressives. And then on the right side of things, it's all about, it's all about being emotive and telling yourself the same story over and over again, telling yourself the same narratives over and over again, to the point where you believe it. It's about comfortable lies and delusions. It's about comfortable lies and delusions casting a spell over the public. So on the left, it's all about logic, reason, science, philosophy, and that is used against the left. And then on the right, you've got magic, basically, used against the right. It's used against, weaponized against privileged people, or relatively privileged people, weaponized against them in order to enslave themselves, essentially. Do you understand what I mean? Because in order to, effectively perform magic, it's not just about like doing rituals and all that kind of stuff. It's not just about It's not just about saying stuff. You have to have the emotion behind it. And if you really look at the um, conservative Christian or Judeo-Christian fascism, it has passion, it has emotion. It tells comfortable lies and then tells those comfortable lies with emotion. Gets people to believe it. Have easy catchphrases. Make America great again. You've got MAGA. You've got all these handy little sound bites. You've got all this symbolism everywhere. All of that is sorcery. All of that is witchcraft. So the irony is that the same side, the right, accusing the left of witchcraft and this, that, and the third, it's actually the right that are using it, because they're using all the techniques that go along with witchcraft, that go along with ritualism. They are the ones who are using it in order to convince conservatives to operate against their own interests, and especially black and in fact, every conservative, I don't care what race you are, every conservative is being brainwashed to work against their own interests. Because why the fuck would you fight to be a slave? Why the fuck would you fight to be a slave? Why would you want to create a manifesto so that your own race could be slaves? Do you understand what I'm saying? Listen to what the TI community have been saying. Oh, it's slavery. Oh, it's slavery. And yet you've got right-wing thinking people fucking sleepwalking right into that shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? It just goes, you know what? Let me leave it alone. Let me leave it alone. Sleepwalking right into it. And I've been saying it for fucking a decade plus change. And I've been sick at the time too. Like, my guy, how does somebody who's sick have more common sense than somebody who's supposed to be sane? Like, where the fuck is everybody's common sense? You're operating against your own interest the entire time. No common sense. And now everybody's mad. Now everybody's got something to say. Listen, I'm going to link not Agenda 21. I'm going to link a video about Project 2025. It's a very good video. I suggest people watch it. And it's everything that I've said before. It's everything that I've said before. The empire of the US is on its last legs, and they're predictably they're doing what all governments do on their last legs. They start spying on everybody. They start spying on everybody. They start trying to control people and all the rest of it. And, it's working to a degree, but it's a desperate last-ditch attempt before Russia and or China eventually take over as the superpowers of the world. And we're using like yen or ruble reserve currency. I think it's going to be yen reserve currency personally, but we'll see. But yeah, people just don't think. They just don't think. You know what I mean? Left and right, they're basically part of the same brain. There was a film about how black people are oppressed, and it's a multifaceted thing. But there was one movie in which somebody from the left talked about how bohemianism gives black people just enough power to kind of betray our own kind or something like that. And then somebody on the right says you've got to supplant them completely. No, left and right, they're part of the same brain. And as for the center, it's just part of the fucking brain. In order for you to really understand the world, you have to just completely be like, you know what, fuck politics. Fuck politics. What am I getting out of this? If you are on the left, what the fuck are you getting out of believing science apart from you feeling good about yourselves? If you're a part of the right-leaning people, what the fuck are you getting out of the equation apart from feeling good about a false sense of superiority? What are you getting out of this? What are any of you getting out of this? What are you getting out of working against your own interest? And you need to understand it's because of you fighting for comfortable lives why you are in the positions that you are in. And before anyone says anything to me, gang stalking is part of it. And if you think it isn't, like, at this point, if you're a gang stalker and you're a perp and you're not seeing how you're a fucking part of this, with governments making all these legislations and having this intensely right-wing militarized culture, if you don't see how you're a part of the problem by now, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what the fuck to say to you anymore. That's why I haven't made any videos, because what the fuck is the point? Everybody's focused on, what's she doing now, or what's she saying now? I don't like, and not even just me, all TIs. What they doing now? What they saying now? Did they see us? Did they respond? You're still focused on that. You are basically responsible for not only a monoracial world coming ever closer to fruition, you're also responsible for that monoracial world's enslavement. I'm not done. On top of you being responsible for white supremacy getting closer to a white world, on top of you being responsible for white people becoming slaves, like their white masters always wanted, on top of all that, they are going to be slaves on a dead earth. By the time white supremacy achieves its dream of being wholly white, there will be no real natural resources left. The nutritional value of food, it was in the toilet already. It's about to get worse. Everything will be genetically modified. Everything will have nanobites in it. There will be no corner of no place, no corner where you can have any privacy. Because the more privacy you get is the more you're going to realize you're walking around on a dead earth with no resources. That is how fucking crazy white supremacy is. We're dealing with a bunch of people at the top who would rather be kings of the ashes. Who would rather be kings of the ashes, that would rather like decimate the whole planet and then move on, rather than take care of what they have. You've got people who would rather be kings of the ashes than nobodies in a land of plenty. It's one thing to survive, but it's another thing to invert the laws of survival so that you operate against your own interests in the end. But we'll let this one play out. We'll let this one play out. And I forgot to say, they don't just want white slaves, they want white male slaves too. With white women as the broodmares. That's what white supremacy is. It is not white people at the top. We have more than everyone else. We have this than everyone else. We have that than everyone else. That's what white supremacy is. It's as cold and it's as petty as that. And if they succeed, which they will, they're not going to succeed in our lifetime. But when they succeed, and they will succeed, it's going to be like an ant colony, literally. You're going to have workers, you're going to have soldiers. The soldiers are going to have more power than the workers. And the more advanced the technology becomes, the more intricate and subtle the brainwashing is going to be. Because it already is like that. So, if you've made it this far, please let me know, my fellow TIs, how you're doing. Also, please check out Bourbon Bougie's page with the Project 2025, because it ties in with everything that I'm talking about. Again, I've been saying it for years. The perps have been working for Nazis the entire time. If you are left leaning and you haven't got by now that Havana syndrome is real and that gang stalking is real and that all of it has been used to cajole you all into acting against your own interests, you're a part of the problem. If you're right wing and you haven't figured out by now that not only is your side of the sphere working towards white supremacy, but basically meaning white slavery on top of that, you're lost in the sauce. Get right. Get right. Because you don't have time. You don't have time. But anyway, if you've made it this far, my fellow TIs, once again, how are you? Are you doing good? In spite of how angry I am at this whole thing and how fucking crazy it is, I'm actually doing okay. I haven't spoken in a while, again, because, you know, tired. But yeah, I'm going to post a link to Bourbon Bougie's video. It's eye-opening stuff. Be prepared. It's not going to be easy. I love you guys. Peace and blessings. Bye-bye.